Let's start. Okay, so we did a couplet of psukim yesterday. chapter 21, psukim 25 and 26. Okay, a lot of review here. Tavas atel tmisenu, ki me'anu yadav lasos. The desire or lust, I'm going to put lust in there because I think that's like the art school term. And just to clarify why I think lust is a better word, because desire, I feel like we use very broadly for anything that you're moved towards for pleasure. Lust has a much more instinctual, base, animalistic connotation. And I think taiva does generally have that. Not always, but usually it does. So the taiva of the atel, of the lazy person, will kill him. Ki me'anu yadav lasos, because his hands refuse to act or to do. Kol hayom hisava tava, all day long, I'll say all day long, he desires a desire, and I don't know if I said this yesterday, but I didn't write it. He experiences an intense desire. Okay, in other words, it's like double lashon. I think that's the most intuitive meaning, is that he experiences an intense desire. Or if you want to take, there are other ways to take it. Like you could take it like the kivros hatava case that I mentioned in Bamidbar, where like hisavatava is a commentary on what type of desire they had. So we might go into that. The tzadik yitin below yachsov, but a tzadik gives and doesn't withhold. Okay. Okay. So what did we see? So we saw Metzudas Tzion. The only thing he said that seemed to help us was me'anu, that his hands refused, really means lo ratu. They do not desire. So he doesn't put it in terms of an active opposition. He puts it in terms of a lack of ratzon. Okay. Sadigon translated the whole thing as the desire of a lazy person is likely to kill him because his hands refuse to do anything. Rather, you'll see him all day long desiring desires, and the tzadik gives them to his soul or to himself and doesn't withhold them. That seemed to be like saying something specific. We tabled that. Okay. So let's go to our questions. Our questions were, what is the definition of lazy in this context? What does taiva mean in this context? What's the connotation as a positive or negative? 3, what is the cause of this desire? What is its relationship to his hands refusing to act? In other words, when it says because his hands refuse to act, does his hands refusal to act like correlate to his desire? Like, is his desire stronger because his hands refuse to act? Or is it just like he has a desire, yet his hands refuse to act? What's the relationship there? 4, what is the lazy person desiring in both halves? It never says what the object of his desire is. And is the desire in pasuk 25 the same as the desire in 26? Question number 5, what is the solution for the lazy person, right? What is he supposed to do? Which we said this puzzle may or may not answer. 6, what does it mean that his hands refuse to act? Hands don't have will. It should say that he refuses to act. Okay. 7, what are his hands refusing to do? Sadigon says they're refusing to do anything, but is it something specific? 8, what is the tzadik doing here, both practically and subject-wise? In other words, practically, what is he giving? What is he not holding back? And then subject-wise, we don't usually contrast the lazy person with the tzadik. We contrast the tzadik with the rasha and the lazy person with the chacham or the diligent person. So what is he even doing in the pasuk? 9, what does me'anu mean? Refusal or lack of desire? I'm actually going to collapse this into 6. Okay. 9, what does killing mean in this context? That it kills him? Does it mean that the desire literally kills him? That's hard to believe. All right. So what does killing mean? 10, how does the desire kill him? Why not just say that his laziness kills him or his refusal of his hands to act kills him? 11, what does lo yachsoch mean, that he doesn't hold back? And how is this a quality of a tzaddik? Lack of restraint is usually indicative of some sort of foolishness, not a tzaddik quality. 12, what is the tzaddik giving and to whom? Okay, I think that actually, let's do this. I think that is really what we meant by practical. Okay. Yeah, practically, what is he doing? Okay, and then 13, what does yitin v'lo yachsoch imply about the lazy person, if anything? In other words, if we do take this as opposites, then if it's saying that the tzadik will give and not hold back, does it imply that the lazy person gives and does hold back? Does it imply that he doesn't give and doesn't hold back? What does it have to do with it? And then 13, who is the audience? 14, who is the audience? And what are the practical applications here? Okay. So we had a couple approaches yesterday, or a couple parts of approaches. I remember what I ended off on, and because we ended off on the Sadigon laziness bomb, I just wanted to start by reviewing that. and then segue into developing other stuff. But I do actually want to continue developing our own ideas before we go to Mefarshim. Okay, not counting Sadigon. So I just wanted to show it to you inside. So Sadigon in his Hagdama says, Kikol masha teva nirta mimeno. So in Sadigon lingo, teva here means your instinctual nature. Okay, so everything that your instinctual nature recoils from, nirta mimeno, humash miyagao umitsaru la'alter, is that which exerts it and causes it pain immediately. So immediate pain and exertion. Lefi sheyesh b'midosav sug nikra ha'atzlus, because in midos there is a type of a blemish or impurity called laziness. So that's his definition of laziness, is that which causes immediate pain and exertion or frustration to your instinctual nature. And everything that he is inclined towards and yearns for is that which brings immediate joy and pleasure. Because there is an impurity of midos called taiva. So he's learning taiva and atzlus as two opposites. So the lust for immediate pleasure is taiva, and the recoiling from immediate pain is laziness. And I think that fits in very well with our pasuk, because the pasuk is basically saying that this poor guy has this taiva, but he can't satisfy it because his laziness is preventing him from doing that. I think that's the only thing. I'll read the rest of the paragraph because this might be relevant also. Lefikach, therefore, zakuk ha'adam lenihul chacham. Therefore, a person needs the guidance of a chacham. She'yigala lo tachlis masha masameach es hateva v'ra be'enei haseichel. He needs a chacham to reveal to him the ultimate consequences or the outcome of what brings immediate joy to the instinctual part of you, but is bad or harmful in the eyes of the intellect. And the outcome of what is harmful to the instinctual nature and beneficial to the intellect. And then yisbul es hayagia, then he will tolerate the frustration, and he'll strive for what has a good outcome. As it says, that's a pasuk he quoted earlier. And he'll refrain from that which his taiva draws him towards on account of its bad outcome. Because the pasuk says there's a path that's straight in front of a person, but its ways are ways of death. Okay, so that's Sadigon. And just to conclude with what I said yesterday, and then we'll develop more, is I was theorizing that the pasuk might be about, when we think of a lazy person, and I said, if I asked you, what is Mishlei going to say about a lazy person? You would think it's going to say, if you're lazy, then you're going to not make enough money, and you're going to be poor, or you're going to, not do mitzvos or whatever it is. This is talking about in the taiva life of the lazy person. You're going to be in a constant state of suffering because you won't be able to overcome that small hurdle of immediate pain in order to satisfy your desires. So you're just going to be sitting there in this state of unfulfilled taiva all day and not be able to get what you want. And in that sense, you can ask the question, who's worse off, the Baal Taiva or the Atzel? So in terms of of pain, I think the Atzel is definitely worse off because he's always going to have his efforts to satisfy his desires frustrated. The Baal Taiva might be worse in terms of the consequences he suffers. If you're a Baal Taiva, you're going to get into a lot of trouble from stealing and committing adultery and jumping into risky situations to get some pleasure. But in terms of the state of if you're charting the pleasure in life, the at least the Taiva guy gets pleasure, and he also gets lots of pain. But the Atel is just in a constant state of pain. And perhaps we theorize, and this is the last part, that Sadigon, when he says that the tzadik gives nosnam lenafsho enon moniam, maybe that was saying that the tzadik will be giving his soul his own taivas. Meaning he'll give himself what he desires. And the reason why that's not bad, when ordinarily taiva is bad, is because the tzaddik is someone who has worked on himself to get his taivas in line with his actual needs. And this is a pasuk that I think we did last year at some point, which is, hold on just 1 second here. I know I'm not supposed to quote another pasuk, but what is it? Nefesh behemto. I think we did this last year. We'll find out. 12 12, 11, 10. So we did this in the context of Mishlei on my Monday night thing. Okay, tzadik yodea nefesh behemto v'rachme rashayim achzari. So a tzadik knows his animal's soul, but the mercies of the wicked are cruel. So Rabbeinu Yonah, sorry, this is not the one. Hold on a second. You know what I'm thinking about, Isaac?
What?
About it's talking about the tzadik eating.
Tzadik ochel l'sova nafsho.
Thank you. Tzadik ochel l'sova nafsho. Okay, yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. The one I just quoted was metaphorically saying a related idea, but this is in Mishlei. So we didn't do this one last year. Okay, never mind. Tzadik ochel l'sova nafsho ubetem rishayim taksar. The tzadik eats to satisfy his soul, and the belly of the wicked is lacking. Let's just see if this Rabbeinu Yonah is quick, because if so, then it supports what I'm saying. Or I mean, not if so, but if Rabbeinu Yonah is missing, I could have sworn there was Rabbeinu Yonah here. Maybe it's in Shari Tshuva.
Call them up.
Yeah, no, it's missing because of a footnote. That means it's missing for a reason.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyway, the idea is that whether you say nefesh, you could say nefesh means his nefesh habahamis, his instinctual needs, and the tzaddik eats in a way that takes care of his like basic bodily needs, whereas the Rasha, whose relationship to food is driven by taiva, and by unrealistic desires, by pleasure or like quantity or like fanciness. So then he's never going to be satisfied, and his body is not going to get what it needs. So this, if you have this idea about how the tzaddik eats, and I know where we did this. We did this in the Rambam in Hilchos Deos chapter 4, I think, when we were talking about how you should eat that which your body actually needs and not condition yourself to desiring excesses. So the tzaddik is, once you've reached that point, you can indulge as much as you want because your wants are not harmful and they are of proper quantity. So the tzaddik, so it still is a little weird that it's focusing on the tzaddik's taiva life and contrasting it with the atzel's taiva life, but that's where I was at yesterday. So that's why I had. Anyone want to bring up anything else from yesterday that approaches that seems fruitful?
Can I add?
Yeah, you can add. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think this also adds onto what we just read from Samuel.
Yeah.
Right. Which is one of our questions was like, why specifically hands?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, right. We didn't answer that. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And so hands for me are the part of you which generates, right? Like there's actual like when you make something, you need your hands.
Right.
And so kind of in line with like the conservation of energy.
Yeah.
So whenever you create something or you generate something, there is an energy cost to that generation.
Yeah.
Right. So in order to create, you must invest energy and materials, and you need to lose certain things in order to actually be generative.
Yeah.
And so that first initial part is going to be like an energy barrier. It's going to be a difficulty to sacrifice energy, time, materials, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the part of that is then if you can't sacrifice those things, then the hands can't work.
Okay.
They cannot generate.
Interesting. Okay. There's actually a full pasuk that supports what you're saying, but before I do that, hi. Remind me your name.
Adam Spicer.
Okay, I knew you were a Spicer, but I forgot what. You have a brother also or a cousin?
Yeah.
Who went to, okay, yeah. All right, hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there is a pasuk that says, hold on, let me forgot the exact wording. Misuchas chadek. Misuchas chadek. I'm not saying that this doesn't apply to our pasuk, but I'm just saying that there's a pasuk that names your specific phenomenon. This is Mishlei 15:19. Okay. 15:19. Derech atzel ki mesuchas chadek. The path of the lazy person is fenced with thorns. V'orach yesharim salula, but the path of the upright is smooth. Now, fenced with thorns, there's Mefarshim say different things about what that means. But the way that Rabbi Moskowitz and I learned it was that if you've ever like walked through a forest, and like there's some types of like thin branches or brambles that you can push your way through that might have like scratchy thorns and stuff, but you just got to like push your way through, but if you were to just like walk into it very slowly, you're just going to get cut up, So the lazy person, for him, his every derech he turns is going to involve some amount of immediate pain. and that prevents him from moving, so that pain stops him. So what he really needs is, like you're saying, to make that initial investment of energy to break through that barrier, in order to like from experience, I think we could probably all relate to the thing that if you have like a paper to write or like something to do, the getting started is the hardest part, but once you get started, like you're involved in it.
Just ripping off the band-aid.
Exactly, yeah. So now tell me again how that idea connects to.
It
Okay,
happens.
all right. Tell me again how that connects to the hands. Yeah,
So hands are the part of you which actually generate,
yeah,
and generation of anything requires the investment of energy. And
I see.
so therefore it's specifically highlighting the part of the process which is not happening because he can't invest the energy.
Interesting. So they refuse to act because he can't invest the energy.
Yeah, meaning like he might want his hands to act,
Right.
he might want them to, right? But unless you put into the equation the energy,
Yeah,
the other side of the equation isn't going to happen.
right. Okay, that's good. That's good. Whereas the tzadik, you see, doesn't have that problem because presumably when he's giving with his hands, right? Yeah. Let's pass that to Adam and to Ellen. Okay, that's good.
But didn't we also explain hands yesterday?
Yeah, you gave an explanation of hands as opposed to feet.
Yeah, like I was saying that with your feet you have to like get up and walk.
Yeah,
But with your hands, it's like
it's within reach.
within reach.
And even then he can't do it. Yeah, that's good. And that we connected to the pasuk about he puts his hand in the bowl and can't even bring it back.
I feel like there's a lot more here.
Yeah, there definitely is. Yeah. But is this approach? Let's just finish this approach, and get it solid, and then we'll go on to one of the Mefarshim. So, what have we not explained here?
I don't know. Good question.
Hold on.
And the approach is what again?
The approach is that the subject of the pasuk is how, in the realm of pleasure seeking, the tzaddik will have the greatest enjoyment, and the atzel will be in a constant state of pain. And that's a different argument for being an atzel, because usually people make rebuke the atzel in terms of productivity. This is not even productivity. This is just enjoyment of life. You're going to be like, people will say, for example, let's take the guy who's like, I don't know, like not the stereotype, but let's say like the, 25-year-old who is not in school, not in work, and just living in his parents' basement playing video games all day, right? So people will say, oh, you're lazy. But then what they'll do is they'll say, you should be productive, and they'll try to make arguments about why you should go to work, you should do something with your life. That's not the argument Shlomo's making. He's saying, people look at you and they think, oh, you're just living this easy life without pain. No, this guy is in a constant state of pain, because even if he wanted to do something, he wouldn't be able to do it. It's constant. He has desires, and whether these desires are instinctual desires like Taiva would suggest, or even, I think it's fair to say, psychological desires as well. Like, no one wants to be a bum. Like, I think like there is no one wants to be an adult who's still dependent on his parents. Yeah.
Can I just argue that for a second?
Sure.
I think that with the case that you gave specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he wants that, but he doesn't recognize the harm that it could do in the future.
There is a stage where that's going to be the case. In other words, there is a stage where the person thinks that I'm just like, I'm mooching and I'm coasting and I'm living the life and like I don't have to do anything. But I think that there's going to be a certain point where you're the hierarchy of needs person?
I mentioned it.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah. So where would his hierarchy of needs in terms of, like, I know self-actualization is at the top, right? What comes underneath that?
That would be, I think, esteem.
Esteem, right? And what comes underneath that?
I think support, like friendship, family, belonging.
Right. So I think, and then sorry, I should just bring up the image, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and then physiological needs, and then basic survival needs.
Okay. Hierarchy of needs. Yeah. So I think what's going to happen, I'm just going to explain it in terms of this. Long time to load. Okay, yeah. So what's going to happen is, so this guy who's like just being a bum. So presumably he has his food, water, warmth, and rest. His physiological needs. He has his safety needs. Okay, now here's the thing, right? at a certain point, then the fact that he is like, let's say vis-a-vis his parents, right? His parents are not going to be on board with this plan, okay, at a certain point. Like, they might tolerate it for a while.
Yeah.
Esteem needs, I have a hard time believing that he's going to feel a sense of prestige and accomplishment in the realm of his localized activity. I think he can, but I think it's going to be very hard because he emerged from a society with with values outside of like the needs of his video games. He's going to have a hard time getting that sense of esteem and certainly self-actualization. I don't think he's going to say that that this is what his life is all about, unless it is what his life is all about, in which case he's going to make that into his career, and we're not going to be talking about this problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, that you mentioned society, now it's like very popular.
Right. So that's why like I think there was a transition period where, let's say, playing poker was viewed as gambling, which was associated with lowlifes and people who don't want to contribute to society, and like there are even halachos about that, right? About how like you can't be an aide if you make a living off of gambling. Now that's for other reasons, right? But the Rambam there mentions the contributing to society. But then once it became like a chachma of professional poker players, and people realize it's not gambling, it's an actual like there's mathematical like strategizing to it, and like you can get consistent wins. So now that is no longer in that realm,
right.
So I think there's a difference there.
Like in terms of like society, like Playboy,
right?
I remember listening to a shiur, I think it was from Rabbi.
Yeah.
Like Hugh Hefner made like that type of inappropriate, whatever it was, a part of society, and like they all value.
Right. So it's the interesting thing is that he made it a part of society in terms of normalizing. But I remember Rabbi Moskowitz making the point that, and this is not really, he wasn't an Atzel, but he was Baal Taiva. But I remember Rabbi Moskowitz saying that like Hugh Hefner made this argument that he made the world a better place by his I guess, right. But the Rabbi Moskowitz's point was, really what is he doing? He's helping people satisfy their taivas, but he was trying to put it in like contribution to humanity terms, because even he had these self-esteem needs of like wanting to believe that he's not just like an animal, Rabbi makes the argument or the analogy on, I think this is on the proof of learning shiur, that a cow can just sit in a field eating grass or eating hay or whatever, and like live with herself, right? Like, because a cow doesn't have any ego, but if a human being did that, there'd be a part of you that feels I'm not doing anything with my life, I'm just an animal. And like, that's that's not gonna be satisfied. So why are we bringing this in? Just to connect it back, this lazy person, whatever he's doing with his day, he also, not in addition to having a taiva for like physical enjoyments, he also has like a drive for esteem, self-actualization, for contribution, for like being able to like look at himself and say like I mean something, like meaning. And he's not satisfying that. So he has this existential aching as well, and this existential pain, in addition to like the just pain of like can't finish eating the chips. Yeah. Okay, so what's the final part of this idea though? So that I think we've talked about the Atzel. I want to sharpen. So what's missing is the tzadik's connection to the Atzel. Yeah, like I don't think you need to go all the way to a tzadik in order to do this. I think if you went to a chacham, or just anyone who, if this pasuk said the diligent person, right, like the charutz, who's the opposite of the direct opposite of the lazy person. The charutz gives and doesn't hold back. It would be having an argument for how diligence, meaning being able to overcome that barrier of pain and act, he's gonna have a better type of life. So why go all the way to tzadik? I think it's a Yeah, go ahead.
And I think this has to do with that chart you brought up, self-actualization.
Yeah.
I don't know if a chacham necessarily, also have. I think there are chachamim who may or may not have self-actualization.
Yeah.
However, I think tzaddikim do. I think tzaddikim.
That's also right. I think so. That's a good point.
Because like they live. Whatever. I don't have to say the whole tzaddik spiel, but like they have that, and lazy person is the opposite. I don't think they definitely do. It's like two separate extremes.
Okay, that's a good move. So let me just expand the spiel that you're not saying. Tell me this. I think this is what you're saying, because we spent a lot of time thinking about a tzadik before. So the Mishlei definition of tzadik is someone whose prime activity is fulfilling the needs of the components of the system that he's in for the sake of the system as a whole. Okay, so by system I mean usually human systems, so whether that be a household, whether that be an organization, a school, a country, whatever it is, that he sees that there's a reality to the system. And if the system is functioning, if everyone's getting their needs and the system functions harmoniously, then everyone is going to benefit. So he's even willing to forego the immediate personal benefit in order to give a benefit to the system, because he knows in the long run that is going to help everybody, including himself. Whereas, let me just say the other side, the atzel, the lazy person, is not even fulfilling his own needs, certainly not the needs of anyone else. So in terms of his orientation towards the system and its needs, he is just a parasite. He's a parasite on the system, and not even in a not even one of the good parasites, right? The good parasites are the ones not good. The ambitious parasites are the ones who take over and hijack the society for their own needs. He's not even doing that. He could get a lot more, because that would take that would involve facing his immediate pain. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if this is an application of it, but if you if you have a mission or a purpose in life that you look towards to,
right?
Then you're gonna do whatever, and that's also self-actualization.
Right.
You look towards that, but the lazy person doesn't have that at all. Just two separate.
Yeah, I agree that the tzadik is really meeting everything in all of these cases, and I don't know if Mishlei would have a different hierarchy of needs. I would suspect that it would have one more, which is needs of the society or the system, right, which are built upon self-actualization, because he realizes, what am I? I am a component of the system. And then beyond Mishlei would be the chassid, who has the needs of the Ratzon Hashem as expressed in the world, but that's for beyond this. But in terms of just connecting to the pasuk, so the tzaddik gives in terms of his contribution to the society and doesn't hold back, because he knows that the more that he is investing, so to speak, into the society, then the more everyone's needs are going to be satisfied, including his own.
Quantum leap on your purpose in life.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good for this, for now, at least? Satisfying or not satisfying? Okay, if it's not satisfying, then I'm content with this for now, but it's possible we'll find more subtleties later. All right, let's look at Rabbeinu Yonah, because I seem to recall that he has a good idea here, but I don't remember what it was exactly. So Rabbeinu Yonah, starting on 25, which is going to be on page Tafresh Zayin on the right column, and then continuing to the left column. See it? Tavas atzel temisenu, the lust of the lazy person will kill him. Atzel bocher ba'atzla me'avas hamenucha. So the lazy person chooses laziness out of love of rest. V'ha'atzla hi hamavia ad tachlis hatsar. But laziness will bring you to the utmost pain. Ki temisenu tavaso, because his taiva will kill him. Lafishu eno yachol lamalos tavaso b'davar. He will not be able to fulfill his desire in the matter. Okay, so this, I think, killing him is taking it the way that I was saying, which I didn't explicitly address, but killing him just means living a life of pain, right? That this is a quick aside here. When Mishlei says life and death, it either means being physically alive and being physically dead, or it means living the good life, like an enjoyable life, or living a life of pain, or it means life of true human life, like olam haba, like learning in olam haba and all that stuff. Okay, and death being the opposite. Kimi anu yadav lasos, because his hands refuse. Sorry. Yeah, Kimiano Yadav Lasos. Kasher Tigbar Ta'avaso Ladavar, when his desire for something overpowers him or increases, Vivakish Litroch Valasos Malacha Kadesh Yasik El Hadavar Shias Avelav, and he wants to toil in order to do malacha to get the thing he desires. Hine Yadav Mama'anos Lasos, his hands will refuse to act. Ki Hirgil Evarav El Ha'atzlav Hamenucha, because he has habituated his limbs to laziness and tranquility. V'ha'hergel shilton aleihim, and habit will dominate them. Uk'ilu yadav mamanos b'meshu chavetz, and it's as if his hands are refusing to do what he desires. Al derech mashakasav b'inyan hazrizus, like it says by diligence. Vatas b'chevet kapeh, by the Eshes Chayil, it says her palms act with desire. Ki kasher hurglu ha'evarim lizrizus v'lo tichbad ha'avoda aleim, because once you've accustomed your limbs to zealousness, to diligence, and you have v'lo tichbad ha'avoda aleim, and the work is not heavy upon them, it will seem as though desire is found in them. So he's adding an important note here, which is habits, right? That there is a difference between what you want and what your habits are. You could want something really badly, but if you've been habituated to in a way that's contrary to your desires, you won't be able to act even if you want to.
Right.
So that's a good explanation. We have to unpack this, but I think this is a good explanation for his hands refuse to act. And this is where I want to just quickly jump off and say this Uber methodology theme. Okay, so we saw in the previous couple psukim. Okay, this was a tag team effort of who came up with it was Mati and then Sean for 23 and 24. Okay, so really quickly. Shomer piv u'lashono shomer mitzaros nafsho. One who guards his mouth and tongue guards his soul from distress. Okay, so we said Mati's idea there / Rambam's was that it's talking about the two primary areas where instinctual gratification occurs through your mouth. That's namely through talking and through eating. So if you exercise restraint in those two areas, then you'll strengthen that muscle of self-restraint in other desires. Whereas if you don't guard your mouth and tongue from eating and speaking whatever you want, so then you're going to expose yourself to bad foods, bad consequences from your speech, and then lack of restraint in general. Okay. Then we went to the next one, Zayd Yahir Leit Shmo Oseb Evrazadon, the malicious, haughty person, scoffer is his name. He acts in the wrath of malice. And there we said the definition of the lates is someone who basically has unbridled aggression in order to counteract in order to rationalize the fact that he's not exercising any self-restraint. That's circular. He's made the choice to not exercise any self-restraint, but he knows that he really should, and he therefore needs to come up with this extreme counter personality of always bashing other people and bashing good midos and bashing productive uses of time in order to sustain this lifestyle. But the point that Sean made was that this is a further development of the first person. The first guy is not exercising his self-restraint, and if you let that go on, then you'll become a lates. Okay,
the definition of lates that you just gave, I feel like I haven't really met people like that. Yeah,
so that's why we were asking, we actually one day I asked, do you have any examples of this? And the telltale sign of it is if you see people who are constantly verbally bullying other people. Because that is what the lates does. Is he's going to be too cowardly to actually
punch in the face,
in the face, or like sabotage their business or whatever. But verbally bullying other people gives him that immediate sense of superiority, and actually causes real world damage. And allows him to deny those same blemishes in him. So if you've seen people who are verbal bullies, and who that's their main occupation, whether in real life or let's say we mentioned on the internet when you can have anonymity, then it's much easier to do that because you don't even have to feel guilty about it. Those are the people who I think this is talking about. Yeah. You'll meet them if you haven't met them yet.
I have met them.
I was just saying, I've never someone who tries to bring people down in the ways that he's lacking in.
Yeah.
So if he's lazy, telling people don't exercise.
So that's a good point. So it's not necessarily that he brings them down in the same way that he is lacking. It's that he senses that he's lacking, and in order to make him feel better about himself, he has to put other people down in general. So like, let's say, for example, in general. But there are two manifestations. Like, let's take the classic example of the girl who bullies another girl. So let's say like the pretty girl who bullies another girl and calls her like fat or ugly or whatever. So that's in the same realm, that if she's insecure about her own, appearance, then she's going to take it out by like constantly asserting her own like superiority in that same area. But then there's another case where like, let's say, she feels inferior. Let's say she's jealous of someone who is smart or who is well liked. She might put the other girl down in terms of her appearances, even though that's stemming from an insecurity about her intelligence or her own like, being loved. It doesn't have to be in the same area. Yeah, and once you expand it to that, then you're right. There are many more examples of that. Okay, so now what does that have to do with our pasuk? So according to Rabbeinu Yonah, this is another expression of this, which is that this guy has habituated himself into not forcing himself to act, right? And now he's done that long enough, so he'll develop the habit, and even when he wants to act, he won't be able to. So, but the methodology point I want to make here is I want to call this I'm coining this term here. So there are themes in Mishlei. This is a Mishlei under theme. Okay, and it's an under theme in the sense that sometimes you'll see clusters of psukim where you can just read the pasuk, the psukim, and even if you didn't learn it, you would see that they're thematically connected. Like if you have a string of psukim about tzadik or a string of psukim about speech, this theme, you wouldn't see that it's about what happens when you don't exercise control over your instinctual activity. We only saw that when we learned the idea in 23, the idea in 24, and then the idea in 25 and 26. So the underlying theme is what happens to the person who consistently refuses to exercise self-control. It will harden into habits and he won't be able to break out of it. So it is a theme, but it's a theme that you can't see on the surface. You have to see it through the ideas.
And this is specifically self-control in the context of, right, he wants to do something.
Taiva, yeah.
But the part of him that is resistant to pain and like the initial difficulty that's going to take is winning out over his desire and what he knows.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. He cannot tolerate the pain of withholding his of doing what he wants. And this is the irony. Okay, is that it starts off with you giving in to saying whatever you want to say, and then eating whatever you want to eat. You at that point think, I'm living the life of fulfilling all my desires. Right? That's how it feels because he's not restraining himself. Then he becomes a late, and the late also feels this way, right? Because he said, I can say whatever I want and do whatever I want. But the Mishlei Mida Keneged Mida, the Mishlei consequence that matches the fault, is you become a person who can't control your own satisfaction of your own desires. Because you've consistently just given into whatever you instinctually want to do. Now, when you want to summon up the desire to like do something to fulfill your desires, you can't.
So you're reading it that the late becomes the Eitzah?
I just made that move now by mistake. Yeah. And I think
I don't want to read it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you why you do want to read it that way, and then you can tell me why you don't. Because weren't you the one who gave the explanation we were asking why, we said that Chazal point to the late as someone who doesn't work, right? Yoshvei Chronos, people who sit on the corner and do nothing. And we had the one pasuk about that that we did 2 Thursdays ago, I think. And I thought you gave a good explanation for why he doesn't engage in productivity. Do you remember what it was?
Remind me.
No, I don't. I'm asking you. Do you remember what yeah. Let me see. I don't remember what pasuk it was. So let me just check.
What was the question?
The question was, why is the lates become someone who was 14:16:6? The late Chazal depict the lates as a Yoshev Kranos and Ohave Batala, people who love like wasting their time. So the pasuk was Bikish late chachma v'ayin v'das l'navon nakal. The late seeks wisdom and there is none, and knowledge comes easy to the person of understanding. And we did Rabbeinu Yonah on late. Let's just quickly refresh our memory here.
Where was I for that pasuk?
Were you still in? No, I don't know where you were.
Oh, that's a really cool pasuk.
Yeah, it was. Rabbeinu Yonah says the late is. I'm just going to read this in English. The late is someone who is involved in idle conversation, idle chatter, and he also mocks people and makes fun of their actions and their words. This trait is impossible without a negation of fear of God and the casting off of the yoke of heaven. And these two midos that are mentioned, namely being involved in senseless conversation and then mockery, distance person from chachma, because chachma is only found in people who sit on corners and who love doing nothing. And likewise, you will not find, and then he talks about what you find the opposite qualities in people who learn. We had a really good idea there, and I think it came from you.
So I remember my idea on that was that, like, what does it mean that he's actually looking for chachma, but that he's not getting it?
Yeah,
that
was
the
that?
sole concept?
Yeah, maybe if you say your idea,
right, which was that he may say that he wants information, right? But because he has his own expectations or preconceptions about what it is, that therefore when he actually gets it, he's going to say that's not chachma.
Yeah, that was a good idea, but that was not the one I was thinking of. I think what we said, all right, tell me if this is what you said, is that because he's operating in this relative value compensation type field, he doesn't want to enter into any arena where he's going to have to measure himself up against someone else. So that's why he mocks other people, right? Because he can just like put them down and just feel superiority. But if he were to enter into any productive endeavor, he's going to have to confront the fact that he himself is not measuring up to the standards that people expect. That's why he has to also shun work. I'll have to see if that was you or not, but I do remember saying that idea. So the reason why I bring this in, regardless of what idea any of us had on that, there is a correlation between the lates being someone who doesn't work and the lazy person who is also someone who doesn't work. And that's why I'm inclined to say that this is part of the under theme. Now you want to make another argument.
Yeah, so I would say that they're both caused by the same root cause, but it's a different expression.
Okay.
Meaning the person who is the lates, the person who will do whatever it takes to indulge within his desires, even when he recognizes that he shouldn't be indulging in those things. And then he needs to find some way to justify them.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus, and that'll cause this whole edifice that he's then creating in order to bash other people and to bash that part of himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus the Atzel also has, he has a lack of control over his desires, but it's a different desire than the lates in that it's the desire not to receive any harm, right?
Yeah.
Meaning the lates is he's going for positive desires, right? He wants to create positive desires with himself. The Atzel wants to make sure that there's no negatives created with him. That's a very different like desire that they're both letting to go unrestrained.
Okay. Yeah.
The one where it's positive creates the lates.
Yeah.
The one where it's I don't want to create any negative within myself.
Yeah.
So then that's going to create a person who never engages with anything, right? The lates is engaging with things. He is drinking. He is having a fun time. The Atzel is completely restraining himself from any activity because working creates the initial negative of like, this is hard, this is difficult, like this hurts. And that's going to create it's the same, he's not listening to himself that like I need to do certain things or I need to restrain certain parts of myself in order to be successful, but it's a different part.
Okay, so let me try a different configuration, which I think might lend itself to that, but then we'll have to explore it tomorrow. I want to spend at least one more day on this pasuk because I want to do other mafarshim also. How about this? Shomer people Lashono, Shomer Mitzaros Nafsho. That's just saying the phenomenon of people who are not exercising self-restraint. Okay, but that could branch off into two different manifestations. One being the late, and the other being the Atzel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, good. All right, so let's revisit that tomorrow. And what I want to do also, in addition to looking at other mafarshim, I want to translate this into practicality in terms of how do you overcome this problem. Moshe's question, basically, how do you overcome this problem if you have the laziness? And see, I don't know if this is going to answer it, but I feel like there's potential for it giving a practical answer here. Yeah. Okay. So that's the plan. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yep.
My grandmother wasn't able to do that.